Charlie in the house.
Hey,
What's up? Good to see you.
great to see you too. I'm doing very well. How are you?
I'm fantastic. You just look so fresh. Where are you located right now?
Right now, I'm in Lake Worth, Florida, which is kind of like part of Palm Beach County, if anyone's been to South Florida.
Just yeah, and now you're going, well, let me not spoil it. You can let us know where you're going to school next year.
Yes, I am going to be starting my MFA in acting at the University of San Diego, Old Globe.
Let's go. Old Globe is an awesome program. I know Jesse, the head of the program. He's a Juilliard grad. He was a faculty member actually at Juilliard for a bit. He ran he taught the class called Play.
Oh, cool.
And it was, I don't know, I should ask him, like, how did that class come about? Because it was really just a class where he just encouraged us to tap into the like childlike nature of like the spirit of play.
Yeah.
And we would be doing things that were just, yeah, just letting loose our. So I'm interested to see if that still is around at USD when you get there.
Sure, me too. And I mean, I think anyone who has auditioned for USD would know this. Their audition room was one of the most welcoming and kind spaces. Like it's one of those things where you'd like walk right into the audition room and I don't know, like the energy shift from like the outside world and that audition room was just like whoosh, you just felt it. And it makes so much sense that he taught play because he definitely gives very, very cool freedom to his actors to just kind of do whatever the heck they want.
That I love hearing that. I'm loving that. He also, I've worked with him in projects before. He actually was a choreographer in one of the plays that I was in. He choreographed us for like parts of the dance and stuff. And he's just so he's a great leader. He's a
Mm.
great leader. He's a great artist. Jesse Perez over at USD. I was so happy to hear when he got the head of that program, and he's done great things with it. Obviously, it's connected for those that don't know to the Old Globe Theater. If you want to share like maybe one or two things you've learned about the Old Globe or what you're most excited about that partnership.
I'm most excited to, oh my gosh, like everything about that partnership is really incredible. So essentially, as part of the program, all classes are going to be taking place at University of San Diego. But on top of that, there is this really awesome, almost like a fellowship that you participate in at the Old Globe, where you understudy, I think, around 5 to 6 different roles throughout your 2 years there, on top of participating in summer Shakespeare programming that they do. So a lot of people have heard of like Shakespeare in the Park. They have their version of that, which is outdoors. It's incredible. So I'm going to be doing that on top of yeah. So all of that stuff is going to be really cool.
It is going to be amazing. And we are here to talk about your journey because it is exciting to talk about USD and Old Globe. For everyone listening, research them. We recommend them if you're applying for MFAs because it's an MFA program. But it is, and maybe this is where we'll start with you, it is a classical focused program,
Yeah.
you know? So tell us a little bit about and we'll go through a proper timeline and we'll get all the fun stuff. But I want to hear about your relationship to classical material. Maybe like how has it transformed over the past year? And, why did you apply to this particular program, being that it's classical focused?
Oh my goodness. Well, I will be so real with you all. I did not consider myself a classical actor in any way, shape, or form. I think I had like this very unhealthy and wrong perception of what it meant to be a classical actor or to pursue classical training, which is really what you're doing. You don't suddenly pop out of this program a classical actor. You're really just deciding that I'm going to be going into a program with a very specific emphasis on this type of material. And for me, I knew that that was what I needed the most work on as an actor. I've had very limited experiences in Shakespeare and classical theater, but every time that I came out of any project that was related to that, I felt like I grew 10 times. And so the idea of really being able to delve in my graduate theater experience or my graduate school experience, specifically in that, was something that I found to be very thrilling, something that I found would be scary, of course, but like something that I really wanted to tackle on.
That's amazing. That's so well said. And I really acknowledge you for so many reasons. One, it's a selective program. It's they don't how many people are in your class?
Evan.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So Charlie, let's go. Charlie in the house. Like, a lot of people want to get into that program. It's definitely a top school. And so awesome job. And also just your fearlessness to recognize, okay, clearly Shakespeare is a great vehicle for my development, but I am not comfortable with it right now, and you just wanted to dive into the deep end, and you knew, so great attitude. I know there's a lot of people out there. Well, I'm sure, me, like anytime that we see a journey that might be difficult, it's easy to be like, all right, let me go another path. But you just did, and you have done this throughout your preparation, is you just go into the fire and you know that's where the growth is, right?
yes, 100%. I mean, when you go to grad school, like why not do the stuff that you don't know anything about or that you know very little about? I mean, if anything, it's the time to do what scares you the most. Because, I mean, when you're not going to have another opportunity, or you're going to have very limited opportunities moving forward where you are just able to do whatever the heck you want without the risk of, flunking a theater company or something.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of professional pressures
Yes.
do not exist in drama school. So great opportunity. Let's talk about how you got here. So we spoke on the phone a year ago or whatever, right? And you were talking about really, really well articulated what you were working on as an artist. It was clear to us that you were in momentum, but you didn't have the guidance and the coaching that you wanted. Obviously, that's why you reached out. Can you remember back to that time and like where you were at skill set wise, like your insecurity or your nervousness, what you were trying to work on?
Yes. Oh my gosh. Okay. So I had a very unconventional journey to grad school, to school in general. Okay. I think I'm going to start back in
Do it.
high school
Do it.
because, quite frankly, I'd just gotten into a classical voice program, opera, like a pre opera program at the local performing arts high school in my area. And I went in and I quickly realized that my connection was more oriented towards lyric interpretation side of things than it was towards the like perfection of the note side of things that is very instilled in you in like opera and any sort of like classical voice program. Um, and I noticed going into high school that I wanted to switch over into the theater thing. And so when audition times came, um, I had a lot of freak accidents kind of get in the way of me fully being able to audition for undergrad theater, and so I ended up going to community college. I did like all this stuff that ultimately just kind of propelled me forward. And oh my goodness,
Yeah, like I call it imperfect steps forward.
yes,
Like you
100%.
were clearly motivated, and obviously life circumstances are what they are, but you continued to take advantage of whatever opportunity you
Yes.
could, right? And that speaks to your drive and how you've kind of ended up here. But yeah, you got your bachelor's. You were out in the real world for a couple of years, right?
Yeah, and when I called you, I was at this point in my life. I had just finished auditioning for like the professional theater season down here in South Florida, and was I hadn't booked a thing, which happens, and I'd always told myself, because right upon the time that I graduated in 2021, up until the moment that I gave you that call, I had told myself I'm going to go to grad school at some point. That is something that I really wanted for myself. It was something that I felt I needed. And when I didn't book anything, I kind of saw that as my sign that this is your chance to just go for it. And I had never had coaching before, which was something that I really, really, really wanted at that point. Because previously, when I had gone through undergrad auditions, I didn't invest in coaching, and I felt I felt it for sure. And I just felt like there's just something so lovely and so beautiful about having the opportunity to share your pieces with other people who don't really know me as me. They just see my artistry, they see what I have to offer, and they kind of tailor me or guide me in finding the way to best kind of show myself at an audition. So
Ah, well said. Well said. I'm interested to hear kind of what that felt like. So, well, let's keep it rolling with there. Like, as far as the work in the sessions and the monologues that you were sharing, how did you feel that they improved? Like, was there something tangible or a big light bulb moment in any of the sessions where you just, or maybe just privately to yourself, was there a moment where you're like, I'm getting confident in
yeah,
this work?
yes. I had many breakthrough moments, and I think once I felt comfortable enough to just speak the pieces by rote, and and I guess it was more like listening to the direction that I was being given, and just allowing myself to do whatever for that session. And it wasn't even, I think beforehand, I had this idea that every session I needed to have this big, like, like shift in perspective on a piece, or this big like this big epiphany about what it means to act or something. But it was ultimately just like I listened to what was being told and I went with it. And honestly, in those moment to moment explorations of the different pieces that I was working on, I kind of just, you almost find it organically if you just allow yourself to just do whatever.
That's again very well said. Like what I'm hearing is that you were just present and willing to play.
Yeah.
You weren't trying to, well, I mean, we all have hopes and expectations and dreams of like, we're gonna have some massive breakthrough or we're gonna get some brilliant piece of direction or something. But it's like if you just stay dedicated to showing up and plugging in and being about the work, you're inevitably going to find somehow, some way, little discoveries here and there. You're gonna have more familiarity with the material. And yeah, you were just present and willing to play. You were obviously in good hands, if I
Oh,
may
yeah.
brag. Uh,
100%.
but that's awesome. Did you feel like you were able to be that way in the audition as well, just present and willing to play?
Hmm. I think I- and I mean, I just have to kind of commend you all. I was able to do some really awesome mock auditions. I was able to do so much prep leading up to those auditions that when I walked in, I really didn't have any fears. I was just able to just walk in and talk to whoever was on that other side of the table and just understand, like, we're all people here. Ultimately, yes, like we all have our own accreditations, we all have our own whatever, but like ultimately this is a chance to just go in and have fun and talk about yourself, talk about why you love theater, talk about anything that comes up. And I felt so much confidence just going into every single audition.
That is awesome. Everybody should like re-listen to that speech because like your passion is coming through, and that's what schools want. They don't want you to be crippled with fear and hide who you really are. Like you, Charlie, are like really passionate about acting and theater and training. Like you were willing to be that as opposed to like trying to put on some idea of what you think they want, right? Like you actually get to be in that authentic space of I've really worked hard on these pieces. I'm excited to share where I'm at with the work today. I'm going to fully commit and just be honest. If you have questions for me, great. If you wanted me to take redirection, like let's play. Let's explore together. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, no, seriously. And I think also, From having gone through the process so many times on my own, to where I went through the year where I really just wanted to please everyone, and they know that. They really know. Like you feel it. And I think when I walked into like auditions this time around, having grown so much from like little old 19-year-old Charlie, like I walked into these rooms and I was like, oh man, like you see the difference between a person who really just feels comfortable in their own skin and in their material and has and just is ready to show themselves for who they really are, everything about yourself, versus a person who maybe wants to like present what they think, and I speak from experience, been there, done
Yeah,
that.
been there, done that. It's natural, right? Because we don't know when we don't know the environment, we try to put on a protective armor or, there's a natural, but obviously with coaching and with the confidence that you built in your material, you become a little bit more willing to just play.
Yeah.
And that courage, schools can sniff that, So very cool, very cool. Well, let's talk about some hard facts, okay? What monologues did you find? Tell us the monologues, the name of the play and the name of the author that you worked on.
Yes, so I learned around 8 monologues. I
Wow,
did
holy cow.
Yeah, I
Amazing.
did three classical pieces. Two Shakespeare. One was Troilus and Cressida, Troilus Act One, Scene One. O Pandarus, I tell thee, Pandarus. The Act One, Scene Two soliloquy from Hamlet, and then I actually learned a piece from Antigone, Haman's monologue in Act Two, I believe it was. And then the five contemporary pieces that I did were Sam Shepard's Very Child, Vince. Um, I did a piece from the Skeleton Twins, Milo. That was actually from a screenplay, oddly enough. I did a piece from The Normal Heart, Ned Weeks, by Larry Kramer. Um, Satan's monologue from The Last Days of Judas Iscariot, by Stephen Adly Gurgis. And then I actually did a piece from a play that I wrote myself, called On the Bridge, and that was the character of Tiago.
Cool. Wow. You had a lot of variety in there.
Yes, yes. I had so much fun choosing my stuff, and I think partially it's because 2021 to 2024, 25, I had so much time to kind of curate a list of stuff that I really felt passionate about. Every single piece that anyone asked me to do, I was so happy to be doing that. I every piece thrilled me, and uh, I really wanted to explore different sides of myself in every piece that I kind of selected for this.
I can kind of feel the contrast in all those pieces. Um, what were you thinking that like when you were building your monologue list of like, okay, this feels like a part of me, this is a contrast. Did you feel like everything contrasted well?
Oh yeah, I mean, just looking at the classical pieces themselves, like Hamlet has a moment where he says like frailty, thy name is woman, versus Haman in Antigone, where he's literally trying to defend the life of the woman he loves most. And so you really get to, at least I hope it came across, and it sounds like it did, but like I really wanted every single piece to kind of not just contrast each other, but like explore just something really, really niche and interesting that I really felt was a part of me, something that I could possibly bring and show to like a group of people.
Nice. That's awesome. Yeah, that's exactly what everybody should be looking for when they're reading all this material. Can you kind of share about how you searched for monologues? Like, obviously we give you a list and all that stuff, but like even beyond that, like how did you come across all this besides the one that you wrote, which
Yeah. So all of these pieces, just either a word of mouth, like I asked people that I trust and that I really respected, what are some pieces that you love? Other pieces had just a lot of sentimental value for me, like Buried Child. is quite literally the first play I ever picked up off of a shelf and decided to read out of my own volition. And because of that, even if I wasn't the best Vince in the world, I was like, it's almost like your little safety blanket. I was like, that's a part of me that I just really want to show you, you know, and it has like a lot of sentimental value, but, um, and I just looked for pieces that just spoke to me. Like I would read, I'd look at a play, let's say, because I would skim, I skim through so many plays, y'all.
Yes,
But I would
yes,
look,
Charlie. Say it again.
I looked at so many plays.
Now, that doesn't mean you read the whole play.
Uh,
Okay, no, he's skimming, people.
yeah,
He's skimming. Take note. Go ahead. Sorry.
no, it's, but I would look at that breakdown if they were lucky, if you're lucky enough that they like break down age, everything of the characters, I'd look which ones are realistically in my age range. Then I'd look for large portions of text and stuff, and if I related to the manner in which that person spoke, if I found something of myself in the passages that I read, then that would be a piece that I bookmarked to read and hopefully find some material in. But yeah.
Nice. That's super awesome. Yes, love that. Because searching for monologues is a big part of, feeling the initial confidence of
Yeah.
I'm gonna do this, right? Then of course you memorize them and you get them up on their feet and you get some coaching and you start to discover different moments. Um, More facts. What schools did you apply to, if you don't mind sharing?
So I technically just did five first round auditions. I did ERDA's, which I have a whole set of opinions on. It was interesting, and that was mostly with the intention of one school that only auditioned through ERDA's. It was Northwestern, um, and a lot of other schools that I already planned on doing already kind of did auditions through ERDA's. But outside of ERDA's, I auditioned for USC, Juilliard, Yale, and University of San Diego.
Nice. So good. Yeah. Um, and where did you audition?
Oof, I had two different rounds of auditions. So I did my first set of auditions were in Philadelphia, and I did USC there, and then I did ERDA's, and then I flew back down, worked my day job, and tried to get my boss not to kill me. And then I flew back up, and I did another week of auditions in New York, and that was just the last three. I will say I did mess up. I took my time with the essays and the applications, and that really kind of set me back on my available dates that I could audition. So I think that if I had just kind of tightened up my finishing of like the applications and submitting them, I would have probably just done like a single audition and called it a day. But
That's a good hot tip. Obviously the application opens usually in September and the deadline to submit it is later, the December or thereabouts for most schools. So you're saying that if you wait until closer to the deadline, you're not going to have as many available time slots to audition. Whereas if you submit earlier, you might have some more audition slots available to choose from, and you could have condensed it into one trip.
yes.
Yeah. Yeah. It's good. It's good tips, logistics, saving some money. Um, cool. Cool. Well, now that we've got a lay of the land of kind of how you what you've got going in, let's talk about like what happened. What happened in the room? USD, you walk in, right? Was this your first audition? Was it your last audition? Give us the play-by-play.
Yeah, so it was my second to last audition. And I like to get to the audition location like an hour in advance, which a lot of people think might be a little too early, but it just makes me feel a little bit more certain. And I forget if it was at Pearl Studios or Ripley Grier. It was like one of those two studios in New York City. Um, and if anyone has been there, there is a check-in process that you have to go through, and it might be a little timely to just get up there. And it had also been a while since I'd ever been there. And so I get there an hour early, And apparently, Ripley, Grier, wherever it was, decided to update their elevator system, and I somehow got lost in the elevators of Ripley, Grier. So thank God I got there like an hour ahead of time. Because, yeah. And so I eventually find my way to the correct floor, and I go over to the room that was doing the USD auditions. And I believe it was Nicole, who's like the director of admissions, that kind of checked me in. And this was the only time that this has ever happened to me, like ever. But she was like, "Oh, we're actually running early. Do you want to go in now?" And I'm just getting right in, right? So I'm like, and, but
That was an opera face.
yeah, lifting the palette. No,
Right, yeah.
but I was like, okay, do you think I could maybe take like 10 minutes to just like, find my footing, please? And she was like,
Great
yeah,
job.
don't worry, it's totally fine. So I went off to like a corner, to like the weird bathroom, because the bathrooms are,
Yeah.
yeah, what are
All
those?
very tight and,
Echo chambery and like, yeah. But I went in there and I just like, because mind you, it was like 10 degrees outside, so I was wearing layers upon layers of clothes. So I just got into like my actual outfit and I just walked around and I just found my body again. And I went in, and kind of like what I said before, it was like an immediate shift in energy when I walked in. I think the two people that were in the room, it was Jesse and Kim, who is assistant, either artistic director or assistant artistic director at the Old Globe. So no big deal. But I thought I would feel terrified. I thought I would feel scared, but it was really, really chill. I did like my first piece, which was my self-written, actually. I did that one, and then I went into my Troilus and Cressida, and they asked me for a second piece, and I actually ended up doing my Antigone piece with a small redirect from Jesse, and um, then they just asked me some questions, and it was very relaxed. I'd say the whole thing took about, I'd be surprised if it was longer than 10 minutes.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Isn't it crazy kind of to feel? I know you've had auditions prior to this, but for those that haven't, like it can be jarring how quick it is.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I one of the other schools that I did, I think it was USC, like I literally went in, did my pieces. They maybe asked me a single question, and then I was like, okay. And they were like, okay. And I was like, okay. And, but
Yeah,
and
same here.
just feel like
Like
that, guys.
I
Yeah.
always tell the story of at Juilliard for me, I didn't even have any like it was just like, hey, how you doing? You stand behind the red line. All right, whenever you're ready. Okay. And I let it rip. And then they were like, thanks, Anthony. I was like, thank you. You don't know if you're ever gonna see those people again,
Yeah.
because right, you don't know what's gonna happen. But you've got to be able to deliver the work.
Oh,
You've got to be able to breathe, and when they give you the room, take the room. You know what I'm saying? And not in some external way where whatever, but like now I know how to get into my imaginative world. I know how to breathe. I know where my, you know, imaginary scene partner is, all that fun stuff. The work. So good job, you, for getting yourself, you know, not just rushing right in because there's an empty space and they said I could go. This is important, right? You've done work that you're proud of. You need to make sure you're in a space, your instrument is in a space of ready to work.
No, 100%. If you need like the 5 minutes or whatever you need to like find yourself, don't be afraid to do that. I mean, obviously before you step into the room, but just know your process as you go through. And once again, the mock auditions came in clutch because like I I don't know if I would have found like my process 100% of like what I need to like fully commit myself in the audition room beforehand, had it not been for some of that.
Yeah. Mock auditions are super helpful. Obviously, for our students, we host mock auditions for them, but it's just a good opportunity for you to just like know what to expect. And sometimes you discover like, oh, I need this before I go in, right? You never know. For me, I like went up on the name of my author. of my second piece, which was like in my mock audition. And I was like, oh, I'm so glad that happened in the mock audition because I would have been so embarrassed, obviously, if it happened in the real thing. But so great. So if you don't mind, and share if you are willing. If you are not, it is totally okay. If you want to reserve it for your private little memory, you don't have to share with us. But I'm interested, like, what did they ask you to do in terms of, well, like any adjustments or what questions did they ask you in the interview? Just give us a sense of the types of things, because not like we're going to prepare, like they're going to ask us, but
For
these
sure.
types of questions.
They asked me right off the bat, as soon as I finished that redirect on the third piece, why classical theater? And it's a great question, truly, because uh,
I asked you, yeah,
yeah,
it's
like
clearly that's the program, and they kind of want to do a little bit of a stress test. Like, do you realize that this program is a classical focused program? Because some people just apply to USD because it's one of the top schools. They don't really research it. Anyway, I'm sorry to cut you off, but yeah, go ahead.
no, it's okay. Yeah, no, they just asked me why classical theater. I gave a similar answer to what I talked about before. Then they asked me like, why do I want to go to grad school now? And if I'd ever been to California or San Diego specifically, and uh, yeah, like they were just very. And I think the thing that made me really connect with them and them with me, I was very passionate about learning, and I was very passionate about wanting to have a chance to just fully work on myself.
Hmm.
And yeah, I some of my cohort members got asked completely different questions. You know,
Of
I
course.
they're very
There's no
smart.
rhyme or reason. Yeah, no, they can ask, any variety of questions, but I know for you, like education is everything, you know? And so I'm so glad you just were honest about that and you came from that honest place.
And yeah, I had so many like nice little moments where, and it's so interesting because like you feel well. I don't know. I auditioned for quite a few programs, and I think you've spoken about it before, if I'm correct, where you just have a moment of connection with either the
Yes.
program or a certain faculty member or something where you just feel like this is where I want to be. And I wasn't fully aware. I just knew, I remember I walked out and I was like, wow, that was such an intense, woo, I've never felt that before. And then looking back on it now, I think that's what it was that I had in that initial. So,
Yeah, everyone's heard the old term, you're auditioning them as much as they're auditioning you. And obviously, there's some truth to that. You're not necessarily the one taking notes and advancing them to the next round of callbacks. They are the ones who ultimately have the power to admit you or not. But like you just said, you are getting a vibe and you're sensing whether or not working with these people feels right.
yeah.
And so you had that feeling after your audition where you're like, there was something there. There was, you don't really there's no word to put on it. I use the word magic, but some people use the word chemistry or, some sort of like, oh, this feels good. And so, yeah. And you never know if it's going to end up working out for that school, but sometimes, yeah, it just hits you and you're like, this is great. So you had that feeling.
Yeah, definitely. And it's so interesting too, because their process, like their callback process, I think was the most unique of all the different schools that I did. In terms of timing, and a lot of people joke like USD works on their own time, and it's very true. But I after that initial callback, or after that initial audition, once I went through the callbacks, I think I started second guessing a little bit, where it was like, I remember I stepped out of that first round callback and I was just like, oh no, I'm not gonna like I just remember specifically calling my friend after I got out and being like, I flopped. I can't wait to just get my rejection. Like I was so negative and I had no I just didn't think, and it just goes to show, like you never know exactly how you're doing. If you just present yourself, you're gonna end up where you have to end up. So
Tell me, they're not looking for perfection.
Yeah.
I just, you can say that now that you've been through the process. Anyone who's been through the process will say that. But of course, before you go through the process, you think, I've got to be perfect. But they're not. Charlie is a perfect example. He was calling someone, telling him you flopped, right? Or you've heard other people on our YouTube channel talk about getting into these top schools. They forgot their lines in the audition, right? They're not looking for perfection. You're so right in that you just have to have the courage to continue to show up with that sense of honesty and that sense of play. And that's a lot easier when you've done the work, though, right?
Oh yeah.
It's a lot harder to be like transparent and yourself when like sincerely in the back of your mind, I didn't work on my Shakespeare at all, or whatever. So you really put in the work, and that allowed you to just trust. So can you tell us about some of this callback process? What was their unique uh, timeline thing, and how did it go?
It was mostly like I found that there was just what you look at on the page, like on the USD page, isn't quite what you're gonna get. So, for example, I did my audition in New York. I want to say that's towards the end of January. Halfway through February, I got an email inviting me to the callback weekend. They do their, or at least this year, they did their callbacks virtually through Zoom. So there were two parts to that. The first part was just a re-audition, if you will, where you go back in, you do one piece, they may or may not ask you questions. And that honestly took maybe 6 minutes altogether. And I think because of how quick that was, I was a little bit second guessing myself. Because I did my Troilus and Cressida again. And I just was like, I finished that and I was just like, mm. And maybe it was just what have you, but I just didn't feel like it was the best presentation of what I could give, especially with such a limited um, audition time slot that I had. But they did ask me questions, and if I was an optimist, I would have focused on the lovely back and forth I had with them during the question and answer portion of the audition. But since I was kind of in my head about like, oh, that monologue, like, oh, like yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
you were just focused on that.
yeah,
I get it. I get it.
and then later on, um, I'd made it to callbacks for a different school for a weekend, and that was actually my first time in Cali. So a lot of new things, and I was on the plane back. I landed, and then I see a call from New York that came in, and I was like, ah. So then I listened to the voice message, and it was Jesse, and I was like, wait, what? And it was just during my flight back too. So I'm like, I didn't answer the phone. What's going on? But there was like an unofficial recruitment portion later on towards March, where if I'm correct, I might be wrong because I'm not 100% sure, but it sounded like they cut it down from 30 applicants at that initial previous callback to about 10 or 12, where it was essentially like a week of here are some students' numbers, here are some faculty numbers, and I had the opportunity to just either email back and forth or straight up just have long conversations with various students who are currently in the program. And that was mostly, I mean, I would assume for them to kind of gauge my interest. Like if you reach out, that'll speak, which obviously I reached out to everyone. And the other part, the program, of all the programs I applied to and I looked at the work entailed on the page, it probably is the most strenuous and scary just because you are understudying shows while also being in school shows, while also being in full time classes. So I think it's so that you fully have an understanding of the amount of work that you have to put into that and really feel confident in expressing interest in the program.
Right.
So after that, I touched base with Jesse later on after that week of interviews and everything, and and he gave me an offer on the spot, which was really, it felt really good. And I
What did he
was.
say?
Hmm?
What did he say?
No, because it was just like he asked me like where I was at and like the general other questions about like, oh, what other schools, this that, and he was like, well, that makes me happy to hear, because at that point I was kind of waiting on USD, and USD was the last school that could possibly admit me at that point. And I was also feeling, I think that also contributed to my negative Nancy approach before, or my viewpoint before. But he just straight up asked me like, I'd be more than happy to offer you a spot here, and we'd be lucky to have you. And so that I let out a sound that I can't repeat because I don't know what it was, and I said yes, and I'm here now.
Here
So
you are. Are you ready for this? This is a lot ahead of you.
yeah, I am mortified. I am terrified, but I am so over the moon and so ready. Um, I don't think I will fully know everything that this will entail, but I'm ready to go through everything I don't know yet. So,
Yeah, you're gonna do great and you're gonna have a blast. It's such a nurturing, supportive environment. It's a safe place for you to fail and experiment and explore this great material and your own artistry, with really good leaders and artistic practitioners, and obviously in partnership with a really world-class professional theater in the Old Globe. So I think it's going to be super beneficial. Um, I was going to say, I forgot what I was going to say, but anyway, I'm so happy to hear all of this. It's all positive, and I want you to give us a dark moment. Was there a dark moment of the soul throughout this journey, either a coaching session or a moment in your own space between some of these coaching sessions where you were just like, I give up, or because it's never just a perfect path to success, right? Give us one of the low moments that stuck out to you.
there are many. There are so many. Immediately, I really started second guessing myself right before I jumped into, like I'd say like the week before I started really going into my auditions. And God bless Maggie for being like my pseudo therapist for like that last second to last session that I had with you guys, where I was just like, I don't think I have, like, I can't, I don't, like, I was just like not okay. I was not okay at all. And
Yeah, it's
then
real.
yeah, but it's crazy what adrenaline and a want to do something will do to you, because the minute that I actually stepped foot in Philly or in New York, you just, your brain goes into like this like mode that I can't even describe. Like you can only grab onto what you already know, and when your foundation is strong enough in what you already know, then it can only be the best that you can give.
Yeah. Yeah. I was going to also ask you about that. You obviously have taken leaps and bounds with Shakespeare.
Oh yeah.
And whether or not you're applying to USD, like a classical focused program, or not a classical focused program, the top schools generally are going to ask you at some point for some Shakespeare, because usually that's a big separator. People who are able to really play and stay in that playfulness with material like that, it shows high artistic potential and a willingness and a fearlessness. Anyway, given how you were doing with Shakespeare a year ago and now how you are with Shakespeare, obviously there's so much more to learn and grow, but like, can you give us maybe one or two bullet points of things that help you play Shakespeare now that you maybe didn't have before?
Whew. You are, this is something that one of my undergrad theater teachers would write on like the board every day that we stepped into class, but it was, you are enough. And if you understand that yes, heightened language is heightened language. It might be at first glance something that is a little more difficult for you to comprehend. Um, but it is language nonetheless. And it is some of the most um, beautiful language, in my opinion, that exists, period. And if you just allow yourself to really treat it as though you were working on any other piece, with respect, obviously, to um, all the when you
Rhythm and
start to really study it, yes, like all the rules of iambic pentameter and like everything that you need to know, as long as you just always allow yourself to be yourself underneath all of that and just surrender to the language, you really are going to reach something that is respectable and something that is presentable.
that is awesome. Totally awesome. Thank you for sharing. Wow, Charlie. Okay, so we're coming to a nice end here. You know the people who are listening. These are people who are just like you, hungry to maximize their artistic potential, want to expand as humans, and obviously be great actors, go the distance with this acting thing. They don't know what's going to happen, what schools they're going to get into, how the auditions are going to go. Put yourself in their shoes. Remember a year ago where you were just getting up to coaching. What are one or two things that you would say to them at this time?
This is regarding auditions. Um, there's like a saying in Spanish. I'm Costa Rican, but it's from a song, and in Spanish it means "Si vas a llorar, es mejor frente al mar," which roughly translates to "If you're going to cry, it's better with a view of the ocean." And what I mean by that is there are going to be so many moments in this process where you are not going to feel confident, you are going to question yourself, you are going to maybe not make the first round of callbacks at the school you really wanted, and been there, done that. Like, you should have your little view of the ocean afterwards that you can remember and kind of treasure. Like, here's I auditioned for Juilliard 3 times, and I came up with a tradition called post first round cut pizza. And so after I got that first round cut and I did not make it forward, I went and I got myself some pizza, y'all. And that pizza was delicious and it made my day much better. So have something great to do. I went um, for a different audition. I went to the Met with a friend of mine and I didn't get far in that audition process, but I remember looking at the Met, I remember looking at those paintings. There's so much in this world that does not revolve around auditions. And if you can remind yourself that as many times throughout the stress of this process, then you will have a good time and you will have fun.
Yes, you will. And you will end up where you're meant to end up.
Yes.
So awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. You are just in such a great space, Charlie. And you're gonna have a blast. I mean, San Diego.
Come on.
Are you excited?
Yeah, I mean, okay, look, I'm from the beach. I'm from Florida. The beach is like a 20, not even, it's like a 12-minute drive from my house. So on that end, I'm like, okay, it's kind of like staying home, but that's also like it's also the beach and it's also beautiful weather and it's also the old globe. Like, come on, it's gonna be great.
It's going to be great. It's going to be awesome. Well, very good. Obviously, we're in touch. Can't wait to hear how it goes. If we're in LA or San Diego or whatever, and you're in a play over there at Old Globe or wherever, La Jolla, obviously you let us know. And we will be in touch, man. Thank you again for sharing today.
Sounds good. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. All right, Charlie. We'll talk soon.
Talk soon.